We're just going to press the button.
Just press the button. Welcome back to the Talking Average Fitness Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Burns, and I'm joined, as always, by my bright-eyed, bushy-tailed expert coach friend, Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
Doing fantastic, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm really good. I actually coached this morning.
There you go. How was that?
Yeah. It was a really cool experience. It was my first time coaching in like 9 months.
There you go.
Yeah. And so I was a little bit worried, like if you've
Well,
ever
first time coaching like in an affiliate, like a class in an affiliate.
Yeah. So like first time coaching a class in an affiliate group CrossFit in like 9 months. And anyone who's taken a break like that knows it can be a little you worry just a little bit. But I got up and I started talking and I was like, oh wait, I know what the fuck this is. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. It's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
Except the bike is on fire. And you're on fire.
I'm on fire.
And it's rolling down the hill off. There are no wheels.
There are no wheels or brakes.
Nope. And there's a
so
cliff
it was
right up there.
What was the workout? It was 6 rounds. Each round is a 2-minute clock, 2 rope climbs, max wall balls in remaining time. 1 minute rest between rounds.
Oh, thank Christ! I was like, oh, you go from like your max at a wall ball, just bam, right back in a rope climb. I was like, oh my God! I was like,
no,
who programmed that and who hurt them? Jesus Christ, on a motorbike.
Right.
Holy
so
shit.
it was in my opinion, that's actually kind of worse because then you have no excuse not to just go ham like on the wall ball section.
But like 1 minute rest, like after your 4th round, it's like the 1 minute rest is like just enough to take 2 breaths, and then you're like, well, back to the fucking rope.
It's a suggestion of rest.
Yeah, like just takes slightly longer to breathe.
Yeah.
You know, so
So it was really nice.
Like two rope climbs. That takes 10 seconds if you're not a coward. So it's 1 minute and 50 seconds.
Well, so it's not the rope climb; it's the time between the rope climbs.
Yeah, it's the time between them. So if you can touch and go that bitch, like you can get 2 rope climbs done lickety split
relatively quickly.
Yeah, and then you've probably got like 1 minute and 40 seconds to do wall balls. And
I mean, averaged across all 3 rounds, I would say people were skewing toward the 30-40 second mark on the rope climbs. And then you end up with well over a minute of nothing but wall balls. And the way I described it is like, this isn't a rope climb workout. This is a wall ball workout where we happen to do some rope climbs.
Yeah. The rope climbs are just there to be annoying.
Yeah. It's incidental.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
It was 6 rounds total, the workout?
6 rounds. Yeah.
6 rounds.
Yeah.
So 6 rounds total. So people are doing 300 wall balls.
I had one guy who was essentially like a 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 type of deal. So he's
okay.
Yeah, so he was up there. And like I think his first 2 rounds were like 50 or more, and then it started like falling off after that. But like he's doing Karen with rope climbs.
Yeah, I had so basically like whenever I program wall ball stuff, I'm like, what's the sneakiest way that I can make people do Karen just with other shit involved? Because if you're gonna do wall balls, you might as well do 150 of them. Like if you're not doing 150 wall balls, like you're not gonna get fitter. Like it's just that's the barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And so in a similar
don't listen to him for the love of Christ, everybody. Don't listen to him.
In a similar concept, I was talking to some people here. Like I was talking to some people at my gym about like, because the past couple times, like earlier in the summer, last year in the summer, like we've done like a run a 5K day.
Right.
And like it's just been less and less attendance as people are going. So I'm like, all right, cool. Like I'm just not going to program run a 5K anymore. Like if I'm having you do some running, like I'm mixing other shit in there just so I can make you run, because it'll trick you. Be like, ooh, power cleans. And so like just so it'd be something stupid like 3 rounds of a 1 mile run, 3 power cleans, and because there's 3 power cleans, people are like CrossFit, and it's like, well, no, so 3 mile run, you idiot. But they're like, there's power clean, so CrossFit, and they get excited and come in and whatever. So yesterday's class workout was for time, a 1.5 mile run, 30 muscle ups, 1.5 mile run.
Oh, you
And
fucking asshole. How can I show people how much I hate them?
It was amazing. And so people were like, I'm like, it's my favorite workout of the week. It's going to be so great. And everyone's like, rocks up and they're like, wait a minute. You're
What?
just making us run they're like, you're just making us run a 5K. I was like, gotcha, bitch. I was like, aha, you sack of shit. I enticed you with some ring work and you were like, aha.
Oh.
There's the secret, affiliate owners. You want to make people do hard shit, give like sprinkle into some stuff that'll make them somewhat interested.
So what's like a 35-minute workout?
Yeah, it was like 30 to 35 minutes. Yeah. Yep. Fun stuff.
So that was also we're wildly off topic already.
Always
without fail. So that, yeah, it was a fun class. It was good, and it was a small group, so I actually got to teach things, and all of this for me is in service of a project that I'm doing where I'm prepping for my level 4 assessment. So I'm trying to go into this very deliberately and very mindfully, and I'm layering on week after week things that I want to make sure that I'm focusing on. So this week was all about teaching. Did I teach things? Did I teach the correct things? Did I teach them to, CrossFit standards? I believe I checked that box. So
there we go.
Yeah, that was fun. But today's not really about me, apparently. We're gonna.
I don't even know where this is going. Just to be fully clear, I was talking with Sam. And he was like, I'm gonna spring something on you, and then you just press go, and I was like, all right then.
Well, I have. Kevin had this idea, and I think it's a great idea, right? So give us the backstory. Fill them in on what you told me.
Okay.
Without the denigrating comments about anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking to myself, like, I'm back in a place injury-wise where things are starting to rehab nicely. I'm able to get back into doing CrossFit workouts, which I've really enjoyed.
Yes.
And me being me, still always have a competitive itch to go ahead and put myself out there in a competition of some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And so the itch is there, definitely the capacity is not there to be competing in CrossFit at the moment, but the itch is there to be like, all right, look, we're going to reclimb this mountain. Like, we tumbled however far down with however many injuries I've had, and taking, 9 months off to, pursue a highly competitive soccer season. We're starting to climb back up. And something that I'm very passionate about, that I talk with other coaches about, friends, whatever, is that CrossFit competitors don't need volume unless you are already at, you're already competing at semifinals, Wodapalooza, the CrossFit Games, stuff like that, where the event requires volume. There's
Correct.
multi-event, multi-event, multi-day competition.
Yes.
So unless you're there, just smashing yourself with extra Metcons, zone 2 work, heart rate skill session, like just all these different stuff that you find on any competitor program you search for.
Right.
You don't need that. And one of my favorite quotes from Tommy Hackenbrook, you don't need harder workouts. You need to go harder in your workouts. And I love that. And so this is the along with the, you don't need to wrap your thumb, this is the other hill that I will die on. Listen, I had to bring something, but the other hill I will die on is that competitors don't need volume. You need intensity until you get to the point where the event you're competing at requires volume. Then you train for the event that you're at. But we're putting the cart before the horse. So yeah, I'm like, for the open, let's just say, like, taking the CrossFit competitive season, we're going to leave all the other weird, qualifiers and, sanctioned events, whatever, aside.
Right.
The open requires one intense effort per week for 3 weeks. That is absurdly low volume.
It is really low volume.
Absurdly high intensity. You need to sell your soul to get scores that will move you on to the next phase of competition. When you get to quarterfinals is always, or I shouldn't say always, has been 5 events, so far, thus far, 5 events.
Yeah.
4 conditioning events, and then 1 strength event.
Yep.
But when they release the events and then the end of your time window to do stuff, if you structure it properly, this has been possible each year. If you structure it properly, you can compete for 4 days. So you could do like the strength and a Metcon on one day, as long as, the time window lines up. Yep. And then just, again, one event per day for the next 3 days.
Yep.
Looks one hell of a lot like just a normal week of training for a CrossFitter. Like it's 4 days of
what a normal week of training should look like.
Right. Okay. Exactly. What a normal week of training should look like is you've done 4 training pieces, 4 Metcons, and a heavy day.
Yeah.
Looks like a week of traditional CrossFit.
Yes, it does.
So the demand isn't on the volume. It's how much intensity can you do today, recover from, and then do it again the next day, recover from. So intensity is the lever you're pulling on there. If you're just doing so much volume that you can't go fast, it doesn't do anything. So what all that is to say is that volume is not necessary, and I would like to prove that. So I myself have gone from where in 2022 at quarterfinals went from, I finished in the top 500 at quarterfinals for North America. Last year in the Open, I fell well off that mark. I didn't even come remotely close to qualifying for quarterfinals.
Now, to be granted,
yes,
you had some different priorities this past Open.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So during this past Open, I was in preseason for my semi-pro soccer team. So we're training 3 to 4 days per week. That was the priority, was to do that. So I had taken from, that until there's been like a 9-month off of CrossFit, essentially leading up to, this past month has been my first month back into it. This is week 4. So 9 months off, different priorities, a whole bunch of like a couple different injuries have, knocked me down multiple pegs. So for me, I've posted about this on my social media, on my Instagram, that like, all right, I've got these movement pattern issues. I've got these injuries. How am I going to fix it? I'm going to go back to the charter: mechanics, consistency, intensity. And so right now I'm kind of like, depending on the movement and the time domain, I'm like in between the mechanics and the consistency bit. So rebuilding my squatting and hinging patterns primarily. Things overhead and like machines and stuff like that are pretty good.
Okay.
But things need a good amount of work. And so my thing that I brought to Sam was like, I'm going to try an experiment on myself to prove a point.
Right.
Most competitors in CrossFit, or people that would consider themselves competitors in the sport of CrossFit, tend to think that volume is necessary, a competitor program is necessary, and almost kind of poo-poo on CrossFit.com and main site workouts because they're not sexy enough. The loading might not be heavy enough. Well, why am I only doing 12 pull-ups? I should do 27. I should do 47 pull-ups because I'm a savage, whatever. There's this idea in the competitor community that like main site isn't the move. And so I kind of want to prove a point and do an experiment on myself that I'm going to do just CrossFit.com workouts, like follow CrossFit.com to a T, unless something life-wise comes up and I got to shift things around. So once I have a child, I'm sure there would be, some shifting, but follow CrossFit.com. The rules are I'm not allowed to add any training pieces. So no extra lifts. So like if CrossFit.com programs Diane, I'm not doing a heavy 5x3 deadlift beforehand. I'm not adding extra interval and machine and whatever work before, during, after. No extra zone 2 sessions, no extra this. That's my one training piece for the day.
Okay.
The only thing I'm allowed to do, like on top of the CrossFit.com, is my like back and hip rehab stuff that I've been doing, 3 to 4 times per week to like rehab that injury and keep everything strong. And so that just looks like, midline and hip strengthening work. And that's the only thing I'm allowed to add on top of it. Training window, 60 minutes or less. Like that's the deal. Follow CrossFit.com. And I want to see if I can take myself from where I currently am, which is essentially like going back to square one and I know I'm not actually square one, like new person walking in the gym. I still have capacity, but like square one in terms of like squatting and hinging movement patterns. Like I'm, going from where I am, which was well outside of quarterfinals back in February. And I want to see if following CrossFit.com with low volume and just leveraging intensity if I can qualify for quarterfinals again with just CrossFit.com.
Okay.
That's my experiment.
Okay.
I feel like you've made some facial expressions, so I feel like you have some thoughts.
I do. I have thoughts.
Okay. I would love to know your thoughts.
So first of all, specifically regarding the accessory work, what is the nature of, or the rehab work? What's the nature of it? Can you give me an example? What does a session look like?
Yeah. So it's mostly just like my hip flexor and my gluteus medius on my right side are pretty weak from just being injured for a while and me working around it. So hip flexor work is, for me, I do I don't know what else to call it, like a banded reverse squat, where like you lay on the floor, hook bands around your feet, and like tuck your knees up towards your chest.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting at.
Yeah. So it's like a hip flexion.
Yeah. It's just banded hip flexion.
Banded knee tuck.
Yeah. So laying on the ground, doing one of those. I've done like hanging on the bar, like a weighted knee tuck, like same idea, but just like in a different position.
Sure.
I've done stuff like Palloff presses, all the different holds. So like tuck sit, L sit, hollow holds, planks of all nature, stuff like that is kind of like for hip flexor things and kind of like keeping midline engaged. And then glute med work is stuff like clamshells, banded monster walks. I don't know what else to call, like you're basically standing up, you have a band around like your ankles and you kind of like, you kick your leg to different degrees, like against the band.
Like
it's like a fire hydrant, but not
banded abduction stuff.
Banded abduction stuff, exactly. So that's kind of the nature of the deal. And then the like in regards of hinging wise is just trying to, like I've done where you'd have a band trying to pull your knee into adduction. So you have to actively go into abduction whilst hinging. So that could be like a single leg RDL, but with that like banded abduction.
Right.
So you're trying to like, you're keeping firing your glute med whilst you're hinging.
Right. So it's terminal knee extension is, but it's not.
It's like that, but to the side.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There's a
like
thing
rotate against it. I know there's a thing for it, but I can't think of the names of it. But so stuff like that. And basically what I do is like, I have all the movements that are like, these are the ones that help strengthen these areas. And basically what I do is like pair them into like one hip flexor, one, and then one hip abduction, one, and like pair them together and do like 3 rounds of, it could be a hold and some reps, or it could be some reps and some that kind of deal. So that's what my accessory stuff for that looks like. And so that's
cool.
All I'm allowed to layer on top of that is like just the stuff that keeps my hips and hip flexor healthy, strong, and moving in the right direction. And then everything else has to be CrossFit.com.
Okay. I'm going to throw some wrenches in the works.
Sure.
So, to be clear, that doesn't always mean doing the work as prescribed. You'll scale appropriately.
Absolutely. Cool. I will be scaling things. When they say power clean to 225, I'll say not today.
Right. So there's that. Today is a rest day. So you'd pick up with this tomorrow, 3 on 1 off, 3 on 1 off, 3 on 1 off.
Yes, sir.
If you miss a day for whatever reason, my caveat is you can't go back and reshuffle, right? So if you miss a day, you miss a day, which means, so let's say you miss day 3 and then you come out of day 3 and it's a rest day.
Oh, I can't like move that to the rest.
You can't violate the like 3 on 1 off
violate
structure.
The pattern. Got it.
Yep. It is what it is. Cool. And then finally, this is where it's going to get fun.
Oh boy.
What are you doing for nutrition?
Oh man.
Oh, you didn't see that one.
Oh shit.
So I know what I'd like to like throw at you.
I'm assuming you'd want to throw the zone at me.
Right. I want you to go back to the Nicole Carroll article. Like,
I fucking love that article.
That's such a great article.
It's such a great article.
I believe it's called Getting Off the Crack.
It is. It's so good.
And it's about Nicole's struggles and journey into moving to like a whole food diet and specifically using the zone as a model. And so it's going to be hard for you because you lived in competitive CrossFitter land, and competitive CrossFitters are all like carbs, 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 and
Pop-Tarts, bitches.
Right? You don't get that.
I'm not joking though. Like Pop-Tarts, best.
I know. Like, don't get me wrong. Like Pop-Tarts are great, but
Gatorade.
No. Like, if it's you'll start with a zone prescription, right? We can go back to the level 1 document because I believe there's something that says you can only have like so many blocks in a given meal. So if you're a big dude like Kevin, you end up having to have like 6 meals instead of 3 giant meals.
I can make 3 giant meals happen. I can make 3 giant meals happen.
No, that's the thing is you can't.
What do you mean no?
That's what I mean. The prescription for the zone says you can only have so many blocks in a given meal. So if you need say you need 21 blocks, right?
Yeah.
You can't have a meal that's bigger than 5.
It can't have more than 5. Okay. Yeah,
exactly.
I got you. Sorry.
So you've got that. And then the other caveat is like once you noodle in on like what your block prescription needs to be, if you need an uptake in calories, they've got to come from fat.
Right. It's you do like the 3x, 4x, 5x, depending
whatever
on your
it ends up being, like, the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which if you're doing 1 workout a day, you ain't gonna be like at 5x. You'll probably be at like 3x or something.
I would say
like that.
3 is probably just like, and it's also dependent on like sometimes the size of the athlete as well. Like I'm a bigger dude, so
sure.
Like, you know, do you want me to start at the 1x or do you want me to start at the 3x?
I don't.
The last time I did zone, I was at 3.
I don't think there's a need to start at 1x and then be like, well, you need more calories if we know you're good. You're just a big dude. Like go right to 3.
0x.
But like you've got it like, and you can, and for anyone out there who doesn't know, we do a little breakdown on the zone diets. The zone diet, Dr. Barry Sears, is a method of, it's very similar to macros, right?
It idiot-proofs it if you like take a second to, you know.
It does. So what the zone diet does is it very carefully controls the proportion of macronutrients across the board for everybody. So if you've ever heard 40-30-30, it's 40% of your calories come from carbohydrates, 30% of your calories come from protein, 30% of your calories come from fats. That is the prescription of the zone diet. But baked into it is this concept of blocks, right? So a block is essentially a balanced food unit. So if you have a block of food, your block of food is 9 grams of carbs, 7 grams of protein, and 1.5 or 3 grams of fat, depending on the thing. And it's meant to make it so that every meal that you're eating is balanced.
It's to try and control blood sugar. Like every time you eat something, you're not getting like, well, I just had a banana and an apple, and you know, blood sugar.
So yes, and
that's like, one of yes, and that's one of the reasons that it breaks things into like, you know, it's trying to balance macronutrients at each meal, which is going to be very difficult for me because I'm one where it's like I have my numbers for macros that I am hitting,
right?
And it's like if I've got some protein to hit, just smash some meat cereal, like just have a go at it, and then there's your protein, or you have like a protein shake or something, and then it's like, well, that's what I have available to me now, and I can just get some more carbs later.
Which is a very popular model. That's called if it fits your macros, right? And so you eat kind of whatever, so long as it falls within the bounds of your prescribed protein, carbohydrate, and fat macronutrient goals.
Right.
To be clear, it's in both instances the same number of calories, right? You would pick the same number of calories. The split might be different depending on like, if you're not doing zone, you might not adhere to a 40-30-30 model. But the bigger thing is exactly what he said, where like it's easy to be like, oh, I need food, I need more protein shake. I need some carbs, I'm going to do this. Well, you don't get to do that on zone. You actually have to, you know, spread things around. And the goal with the zone was, like Kevin said, to help people regulate blood sugar and insulin levels, right? So you get a person who's pre-diabetic or diabetic. This is a model that, along with picking the right kind of food, i.e. unprocessed whole foods, you can begin to affect some change in long-term what their blood sugar levels are, and hopefully bringing them out of a diabetic state and into it like a pre-diabetic or non-diabetic state. That's one. But also two, there's, and I'd love to have someone who understands this better than I do. This is where we need like an E.C. Sinkowski. But Lane Norton would tear the shit out of this. I know he would.
Oh, demolish it.
Destroy it.
Fucking stupid.
Right. But like at the same time, like I could see what he's very, very, peer-reviewed literature oriented, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I believe there's something to be said for getting a balanced version of everything, what that does for things like gut microbiome health and stuff like that. I don't think it's going to hurt you. I think the bigger issue is going to be the logistics. You're going to have to plan ahead,
Fuck.
There
goes my fucking breakfast sandwiches.
I know.
Piss.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well.
So then, is that an acceptable caveat is the question. Are you going to be like, well, yeah, 3-on-1-off CrossFit.com, that's one thing. But sticking to the charter, to use your own words, 3-on-1-off, mechanics, consistency, intensity, and meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little sugar and no starch.
Little starch, no sugar.
Well, but there's, what's his face? Glassman. Little starch, no sugar?
It's this little starch, no sugar.
Means let's see, that's what it is it's some starch, little fruit, no sugar. So Glassman actually swapped it.
When?
See? Nobody knew that part.
Fucking damn it.
It was like a lot of it was after he did a bunch of work with Gary Taubes and stuff like that. He came out of it. And so the original opening line to 100 Words of Fitness is eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar, right?
Yep.
The some fruit and little starch thing, what his contention is, what is happening metabolically when we intake carbohydrates that are based in sugar, even if they are bound up in fiber, like bananas or apples or anything like that, the positive outcomes from eating more fruit, quote unquote, is not so great that you can't swap your fruit for starches and still get dense carbohydrates, still get fiber, but not get as much sugar, right? And so his whole thing is like you should be trying to, as much as you can, reduce the amount of sugar that you're intaking. So I want to say it was like 2018 or 2019, very quietly, he made the public comment, if I had it to do over again, I would change it to say, eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some starch, little fruit, and no sugar. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think I don't know, because where my brain goes with that is, when you're eating forms of carbohydrate, whether that's vegetable, starch, fruit, sugar, whatever, eventually as it kind of gets metabolically processed, it becomes sugars.
So it becomes glucose.
Yes.
Right. Which is a sugar.
Yes.
But this is like all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares.
Right.
Right.
So what I'm saying is whether it's some fruit, little starch, or some starch, little fruit, I feel like as long as the main overarching thing is that it's unprocessed, like you'd be able to recognize it as food. It's not a man-made food-like substance. It is a single ingredient thing. And when I say single ingredients, is the best way I like to describe this stuff to people is like you eat single ingredient foods. Like, what's single ingredient food? I'm like, well, what are the ingredients in chicken? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, it's just chicken. Like, hint, spoiler alert, it's just chicken. What are the ingredients in a potato?
My favorite one is if it has a nutrition facts label, it's not real food.
Well, okay, yeah. There's multiple different models. You can, what was it, Greg Glassman was like, just stay on the perimeter of the grocery store.
There's
like
that
stuff
one.
in the middle on the aisle. Like there's multiple different models that you can use to phrase the like eat real food. What was it? I liked one. Ben Bergeron said, I'd have no idea when this was. He was like, eat real food.
He stole that from Michael Pollan.
Oh, did he?
7 words: eat real food, not too much, mostly plants.
Mostly plants. Yep, there you go. That's the one.
Yeah. And also the phrase "man-made food-like substances" that comes from Michael Pollan's book In Defense of Food. And Michael Pollan, who is a batshit crazy motherfucker, like who like writes these great books on food, but then also goes off and writes books about like mushrooms and shit, and like all the fun stuff he has with mushrooms.
I mean, you can have some fucking fun with mushrooms, dude.
I got some stories from my sordid youth. Anyway,
I'm sure you do.
There's something I don't need to relive. So Michael Pollan wrote this great book, In Defense of Food, where he's basically talking about the quandary that we have placed ourselves in as a society. Like, we have entire industries that are built around providing what he calls a man-made food-like substance. Like Oreos, you can eat them, but like the running joke is Oreos are vegan. Well, they're vegan because there's nothing real in them. Yeah. Like it's a combination of ingredients and compounds. Chemicals. Chemical it has a connotation, but it's not wrong,
Yeah.
That when mashed together form an Oreo, right? And so you can do those things, but like, it's the same way I talk about wrapping your thumbs on a bar, right? 100 million years of evolution gave you an imposable fucking digit. And why you wouldn't want to use, like, now in 2023, I've got it figured out and I can ignore evolution. The fuck you can. Wrap your thumb around the bar, right? It's there for a reason. The same way, like,
they're there for the texting. They're there for
yeah. 100 million years ago.
That's because you can do this. You can scroll with it. You can do that.
Yeah. Jeepers creepers. Well, so like,
listen, I'm giving it a current need for the thumb.
Nobody needs what you're saying. So quickly, no. Second, I like the things that you are designed to eat as a human being. And this can be a controversial topic. They look like plants, animals, nuts, like mushrooms, fungus, like the
fruits,
things.
Vegetables.
Yeah, like if it walked on the ground or grew in the ground, your system is designed to do something with it. If it didn't,
would it be too simple to say if it was alive at some point? Because plants are alive, animals are alive. The plants that nuts come from were at some point alive.
Water's not alive.
Itself, maybe.
I would say water's not alive.
Okay.
And like water is a necessary compound. Well, like water's a chemical, right? It's like if you want to look at it from that perspective, water's a chemical.
I mean, if we're gonna nerd out, everything's a chemical.
Right? Exactly my point. So that's why I don't like that term. But like,
yeah, no, I get you.
I think that, there's a lot to be said for what you can do by cleaning up diet, right? And so like Ben's thing, the thing that he kind of like stole from Michael Pollan was eat real food, not too much, mostly plants. And what that controls for is first and foremost quality, right? And then secondly, and like almost like right there or very close to the top or equal as the equal priority is quantity. That's one of E.C. Synkowski's principles of nutrition is all diets control intake to some degree. And therefore it's impossible to like validate or invalidate a given diet. Like, is it a diet, right? As a part of this diet, are we preventing you from indulging too much? Right?
Yeah.
And you could call that a diet. You could just call that appropriate eating as well.
Yeah. And that's like, I know we're joking that like Layne Norton would tear his own diet to shreds. I don't know that he would necessarily, unless it's like his big thing is if someone says this diet is the one, like this is the one that solves all the problems and will fix your entire life. And what I'm doing here is better than what everybody else is doing. Yeah. He's like, fuck off, stupid. No.
Yeah.
Because he's like, as long as you equate calories and protein, like you have sufficient calories for whatever the goal is, and sufficient protein to support lean tissue, it doesn't really matter what the fuck else you do. Like that, as long as those
it matters a lot less. That's for sure.
It matters way less. Like that's the 1%, where it's like, if you're like, okay, I'm trying to go from 4% body fat to 3% body fat, then yes, you need to play with those things. But for the 99.9999% of us that are not that, it's like the diminishing returns on like eating 5 grams of carbs less and 3 grams more of fat to try and tweak your body composition is like ridiculous.
So diminishing returns on attaining perfection.
Very much so.
Absolutely.
Very much so.
Okay, well, I think we've got a solid little plan here. All right, so Kev's gonna. By the way, to be clear, I'm not fucking doing this. Like, I'm not partaking in this insanity. Not that I think it's insanity, but I have different goals currently, right?
Yeah.
So like, and so to kind of lay out where I'm at, from a life standpoint, this is actually really well timed because you got a baby coming in January, just before the Open. And so like the only time you're going to have to do this shit is right now. So yay,
yay for me.
Yay for you. So I already have 2 kids.
But I also think that like, even, once baby comes, it's like, again, the parameters that I put on it, of it being CrossFit.com workout 60 minutes or less for a training window, like that will work. If it was like, all right, I'm going to do all like, I'm going to limit myself to 3 hours for a training window. It's like, you can't, like, not that you can't do that with kids, but then like, it's a whole lot on Sammy, where I go, hey babe, you take the baby. I'm going to go do fitness for 3 hours. Have fun. Catch you later. That's a lot. So,
that's a lot.
But, I do like that. So the last time I did zone, this is going to be like full disclosure. I cheated. Because I did zone.
That's honest. I appreciate that.
I did zone with, like, I had my block prescription, but I treated it like the macros, where I'm like, okay, if my meal was 4 blocks of protein and 4 blocks of carbs, but only 2 blocks of fat, I would just backlog those fat blocks into a different meal. So I would shuffle stuff around as I needed to like hit the prescription at the end of the day. Like, hey, I got my blocks in.
Okay.
But it was like, oh, I had, breakfast was eggs, bacon, and something. It's like, all right, my protein and fat blocks were filled.
Yeah.
But then like there wasn't much for carbs. So I just backlogged the carbs to a different meal. It was like, okay, I need, so
I'm going to give you a block prescription.
Okay.
What is your current weight?
210.
Cool. If you had to estimate as reasonably as possible your body fat percentage, what would you estimate of that?
14% as of an in-body scan 2 weeks ago. Beautiful. 3 weeks ago.
All right. So what we're going to do is,
I'm scared. This is going to come back and be like 14 blocks.
0.9. Nope. We're going to do 23 blocks a day.
Shit. Okay.
Shit. So. Good. Let me come back to the calculator thing.
Just further reinforcing that I don't eat enough food ever.
Yeah. So you can do 23 blocks a day. You're gonna need.
It's gonna be fucking hard. Holy shit, buckets.
Yeah, you're gonna need like 6 meals.
So like, how are you doing your math? If it's like 5 blocks a meal, that's 4 plus a 3 block snack.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do.
If I'm not
present arms.
I don't need you to present.
Yeah,
I can do math.
Apparently you do, because
it's
we're gonna
23 blocks and it's 5 blocks per meal. That's 4 meals plus a 3 block snack.
All right, here we go. All right,
crazy.
All right,
Where the fuck are you?
This is Zone Block Calculator. I found this forever ago. I've done it out. I like calculated it out manually. Like it definitely works out.
Okay.
Yes, it's accurate.
It's all just an algorithm anyways. So anyways.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So at 210 with a body fat percentage of 14, right? We're gonna, if you're telling me you're gonna do 3 on 1 off, 2 on 1 off,
Yep. That would be the medium to hard. Yep. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
I agree.
And so I calculate blocks, your block allocation. This is what the math is, right? Sure. So how many blocks? Let's say you were 7% body fat and your present weight was 160. It would come out to whatever based on your activity level, right? Here is yours. So 14% times your present weight. That gives me your fat weight in pounds, ballpark. Total weight minus your fat weight is your lean body mass. So determining your lean body mass is the goal here. You multiply your lean body mass times an activity level. Factor. Exactly. So going back to here, your activity level, like if it was this, it would be like 0.7. It's like 7, 7.5, 8.
It's 7 to 9. It's 7 to like 1, isn't it? Is the
that's what,
or is it was like 1 point. So because like I'm guessing the competitive athlete there, because there's 2 sections that's like competitive athlete 10 to 20 hours, 20 plus hours. That would be like a 1.1, 1.2.
Exactly.
Would be my guess.
You'd be cranking up above that. Yeah. And they primarily used to determine protein level, but like even above 1.1, they're diminishing returns. So it's just calories. I think they would be like multiples of.
So you do fat like blocks. I was gonna say you'd get the fat blocks like starting at 5x.
Yeah. And so what we end up with is we end up here. Back up. So activity level of this. So you take lean body mass times your activity level. This is your daily protein. How low does that look to you?
Well, so it looks, because I remember the first time I did zone block stuff out, and like actually the math was like, oh, there's 4 grams. There's anyways, like the calories per grams of protein and whatnot. Like I did the math to figure out like the grams of protein, and it was like 150 something, and I was like, you fucking what?
Right.
But it's also like the way the algorithm works, and when you like put the blocks together, it accounts for protein from other sources. So like if I have like a potato or a piece of bread or something, bread. If you have a piece of bread, it's like there's protein in those things. Like you get protein from other sources.
Absolutely.
That you're eating that like, are not so like, So like it could be a carbohydrate or a fat source. Like if I have nuts, like a handful of peanuts or a handful of almonds is primarily a fat source. So the blocks go towards your fat, but there's protein in there.
Yes.
So it's probably accounting for, if I had to guess, like an extra 30 or 40 grams of protein from fat sources primarily.
Yeah. And EC has done a great breakdown of this. If you're wondering, like, is this accurate? EC Synkowski has done a fantastic breakdown of macros versus zone diet and some of the fudging that goes on in the zone diet. Like, I'm not worried about that. I think you're going to crush this. I think the harder part is the breakdown where you're going to have like a 5-block breakfast and a little snack and a 6-block lunch and a snack and a 6-block dinner and then a bedtime snack. Like splitting that up, that's going to be real interesting. And I
say the interesting thing is going to be like trying to make that prescription. Can I like combine snacks?
No.
Is that, or do I have to stick to this?
You got to stick to it.
What the like flying?
And then if we go over here to baby steps, like
4 a.m.
So like these are and now we're like how to do snacks in the zone. Like here are 2-block snacks, or these are 1 blocks each. And if you need 2 blocks, you double it, right? So like 2 eggs, an apple, and 6 almonds, 2 cheese sticks. Yeah, a cup of grapes and a handful of 3 macadamias.
So say that one more. So 2 eggs, an apple, and some nuts is a 2-block snack.
Is a 2-block snack. So 1 egg, half an apple, and 3 almonds is a 1-block snack.
What the fuck? I'm like, all right, so you're gonna buy stuff. So pro business tip for anybody out there: you're gonna buy stock in eggs. It's like, because I'm trying to remember through the guidelines. Essentially, it's like 1 egg is 1 block.
It's a protein block.
Right. Protein block. Yeah. I'm pretty sure like 1 piece of bacon is a protein block, or like a turkey bacon or something like that.
Turkey bacon.
There's turkey bacon. Okay.
Yeah. Regular bacon is like 75% fat.
Okay. Well, it's like 4 ounces of meat is like a protein block, right?
Something like that. And here's your chance to crack out your level 1 manual.
I gotta open that thing up again and like go through those, like, fuck, the whole list of like.
Oh yeah, buddy.
And then I'm gonna have to like just pick things and be like, all right, this is just the foods that just to make the math easy. Because if I keep having to like shift things, like, all right, so I'm having like 80% beef. What does this do here? But if it's like 93%, it goes this over here. And then if it's a ground turkey or it's deli turkey,
you're gonna figure it out. You're gonna figure it out.
I know I'm gonna figure it out. I'm just gonna thank Christ I have a food scale.
Right. And that's the other hallmark of the Zone Diet is weighing and measuring. All right, so we are right at the 45-minute mark. I think this is a great place to stop. There's a lot of work you got to fucking do.
Then yeah, we'll check back.
We're gonna so in a couple weeks we're gonna follow it. We're gonna follow up with you. So we won't talk about this next week.
I will say, listen. So I like starting because today's the rest day on .com.
Yep.
Tomorrow we pick back up and it goes. Although like I already have the food in my house that we bought for this week, so I'm gonna finish that. But I'm gonna like when we go grocery shopping this weekend, shall prepare for the zone because I have 0 nuts in my house aside from peanut butter.
So you're gonna slow roll into the Zone Diet.
I'm gonna slow roll into. I'm gonna get the things and like try and get as close as I can for like start to work it in.
Yeah.
But it's like if like I don't have. What we had prepped for some dinners was like Sammy made a gigantic thing of chop suey and she was like, this is dinners because we have busy week. And I was like, I captain.
Yeah.
So it's like, I can guarantee you chop suey fits into 0 blocks of like.
What's going to be fun about this is not whether or not he does .com or like how many blocks. It's going to be sharing his diet with his significant other.
With my currently pregnant wife.
Oh yeah.
Well, what's just going to happen is it's going to just be like, like I'll do it. I don't think she will also do it.
No. Don't try to force that on her. Good Lord.
I'm not going to force it on her. Absolutely not. It's just going to be like her living in a house and she'll be like, we all know the thing, right? Like, oh, baby, you want to go get ice cream? You're like, no, I'm good. Like, well, we'll go. And she's like, nope, don't want it anymore. I'm like, well, you wanted we can go. Like, yeah, exactly. Fact.
All right. Well, we're gonna kick you loose so you can go plan your shopping list.
My divorce. All right.
Yeah, sick. Basically. If you think this is gonna go great or horribly, please let us know. This will be interesting. And we'll follow up in 2 weeks with Kevin and see how the hell he's doing and whether shit has absolutely imploded. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for playing along, and we'll see y'all next week.
We'll see you next week.